everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Ali. Apologies if my voice sounds a little off. I've been dealing with a winter bug that was particularly nasty and sort of took away my voice. I had a bit of pharyngitis or laryngitis and completely lost my voice, and it's still healing. My main speaking voice is back. But my singing voice is very weak, which sucks because I love to sing. But yeah, if my voice sounds a little off, that's why. And if you hear any noises in the background, it's my cat because he has breathing issues as well. So, this was a request that I've had for about 2 months. It was requested by my subscriber Autumn. Autumn, I'm so sorry. It took me ages to get around to this. They wanted to hear my thoughts on disability within the spiritual community and how it fits in, and my thoughts on ableism in the spiritual community. So I'm so sorry it took me a long time. I was also very unmotivated and just going through a little bit of a rough patch because I'm a little bit kooky like that. And I, mental health, I bounce all over the place. But I am back now. So my thoughts and feelings on this topic have evolved in the 6 years that I have been practicing tarot readings and been practicing connecting to spirit guides. For those who don't know, I have a physical disability and I have been a tarot practitioner and spiritualist for about 6 years. Probably going on 7 years next year. Next year? No, October, it'll be 7 years, I think. Because I started in 2020, and then 2026, so yeah. Probably 6 years in October, actually. 7? Yeah, 6 years in October. Don't mind me, this is just going to be an unedited ramble anyway. But in those 6 years, I have encountered a lot of people, different people within the spirituality space, observed a lot, combined spirituality with my own thoughts about being grounded in the physical world. So how do I begin? This is sort of unstructured, to be perfectly honest with you. I didn't structure anything, but some things that I've noticed, because I also have my own struggles with mental health. Sorry if the microphone's a little dodgy. I've had my own struggles with mental health, and I've realized that there is a lot of ableism in the spiritual space in regards to mental health, especially when it comes to manifestation content, because there are some people that will talk about you can only feel high vibrations in order to manifest. Now, I've had my own journey with this. So from my personal experience, and I'm only talking from my personal experience, I don't think that is strictly true, because I believe that we manifest what we predominantly think about, like law of assumption. So that doesn't mean intrusive thoughts or anything like that. What it means is what you positively think about and you want to experience, you will have in your life. So I know that a lot of people that have mental illnesses or mental health struggles feel very put out by the fact that people say, just have high vibes, and you'll be fine, because I think that can lead into a bit of toxic positivity, and it's not always helpful for people that are going through crises. And I fully believe that your spirit guides are with you through thick and thin, whether you know it or not. So I believe that just because someone has a mental health crisis, and I've been one of those people, I've had severely bad mental health, not fully, majorly awful, but it was pretty bad. I fully believe that, spirituality is not absent for you if you're mentally ill. And I think anybody that says, oh, if you have a mental illness, if you take meds, you can't connect to spirituality, I think that's bullshit. Sorry, excuse my language, but I think it's bullshit, to be perfectly honest with you. I believe that we are all equal in the eyes of spirit. And I think treating people who are mentally ill like they're lesser than or have less of a connection to spirit is wrong. Because I believe that spirit loves us all equally. The source, whatever you believe in, it loves us all equally no matter what, whether you believe in the universe, source, your subconscious, just you manifest everything. It doesn't matter. Like, we're all equal, and nobody should perpetuate ableism and be against mental health and like tell you otherwise. You know what I mean? Because that's not like what my spirit guides have like told me, and they want to help me out of that place. Spirit wants to help you out of that place, and they want you to empower yourself to get out of that place, even when it's really difficult. So yeah, if anybody says anything against people who are mentally ill, that's just a load of barnacles. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to swear less but I'm really passionate about this topic. And another thing that I noticed in the same vein is people won't get readings from a reader who is schizophrenic or bipolar or has another type of mental health issue, because they believe that person has a negative energy and it will spread to them through the reading and all sorts of stuff that makes me roll my eyes. I have OCD, and it has not once made me bad at tarot reading. In fact, I'm able to file away my own personal self to do these readings. I'm able to shift into a space to read for people appropriately, and you will find that many people that struggle with these conditions will be medicated, and they are more than adequate to read tarot. There is no one size fits all when it comes to tarot. You don't have to be in a perfect mental state to read tarot. You just have to be there for the client, and be able to, regulate that to a certain extent. So I think anybody that says, oh, I won't book with that person because they're bipolar. I saw that happen to somebody once. I'm not going to name names, but there was someone I knew of who had a mental health condition, like a disorder. And people were saying, oh, well, they have a negative energy. I'm not going to book with them. And I thought, goodness me, but I suppose those people, it's their loss if they don't want to book with, a talented reader who is doing their best for people. You know what I mean? I feel like that's their issue that they have to, combat within themselves. But it really does bother me. This is turning into a rant. But it really does bother me, because if people were really connected with spirit, they would realize that righteousness is not spirituality. Like, it's not true spirituality. Like, me and my friend Blaine have had this discussion before. Shout out Blaine. I was just thinking about it. Blaine did a reading for me, and he, if you don't mind me saying, Blaine, I'm gonna say it because it was my reading, but we were talking about how, people that really practice spirituality, they don't try to convert people. They don't have this righteous attitude. And that's what I find a lot of. And I think when people are searching for purpose and meaning, they mistakenly take on spirituality and they think, right, I'm chosen, I'm special. Where the truth is, spirit doesn't really choose or mark people. Spirit will guide and encourage, but it will never say, oh, someone is, the second coming, or, this person is solely like a miracle worker. It doesn't work that way. And to have, I feel like spiritual psychosis is not talked about enough and is not treated with full caution. I feel like people are just allowed to say whatever they want, label it as spirituality, and it's actually they need proper help because they are experiencing a level of psychosis. And I think that, yeah, you have people that take on spirituality as kind of a blanket or a covering for themselves, so they can say things through the lens of quote unquote spirituality, which is a real thing, by the way. Like, spirituality is real. Like, the spiritual experience can be real for people, but I think a lot of people use it to scam, to grift, and to harm people, who they see as beneath them. And that has been my problem with it for a long time. It's always, there was this one infamous person on social media that I'm not going to name, but there was this massive account. They had a ton of followers, and they're deactivated now, so it doesn't matter. But there was this one person who had a very cult-like mentality, and they used to say things like diabetes is bad karma, and disability is bad karma. Everything was bad karma. Eating red meat makes you demonic, which, first of all, I use the word like demonic very sparingly myself, because there are people that do work with demons, and it's not what you think either. Everything is subjective, but I'm not going to speak on that. But I'm just going to say, they would always do this black and white labeling where red meat was bad and it made you negative, and it's all just crud. I'm sorry, it is all just crud, right? I learned to come into this, and I put a logical perspective. Even though I would experience unexplainable things, it felt so careless and irresponsible to me to talk down to people and say, oh, well, your condition that you can't control, oh yeah, that's just an entity that has latched onto you. There is no such evidence to support that, scientific or otherwise, and it goes against every ethical tenet of being a reader. Like, it truly does. Like, I genuinely, in my heart of hearts, am so peeved off with people that think that just because they're spiritual, like I said, you can say whatever you want and you feel in your reality that's not going to have consequences. But yeah, we all live in our own realities, but then this shit is far reaching, you're hurting people through this guise and saying these things. And as an ethical reader myself, I'm going to say, I'm not like a saint or anything as a human being. I'm not perfect. No one is. But I'm also not going to say negative things in my practice. I'm going to empower my clients. What message does it send if you're consistently negative and you're telling people they have things attached to them, or a mental illness is of the devil? Like, what message is that sending? What is it really, putting out to people? I just can't believe it. People are so careless with what they're saying, and it's wrong. It's wrong, and it makes me, I'm getting really heated. I'm so sorry, you guys, but it's wrong to, in the manifestation and spirituality community, say to people, you're not trying hard enough, or you have this attached to you, or, yes, some people, maybe some people, I used to be like this, okay? Some people are used and comfortable with playing victim. That's right, some people are, but the vast majority of people are trying to get by. And as I said, what message does it send when you're just telling people they're wrong and they're foul and they're bad? That is against what spirituality is. I just feel like, the community would be so much better, and people would take spirituality more seriously, or be willing to give it a go, if there were not people like that being ambassadors for the community. And as I've said, I mentioned it briefly, but spiritual psychosis is a real thing. I believe in your spiritual practice, you have to be grounded enough to say, I am also in a human body, having a human experience. I am not above anything. I am not some, super heroic, supercharged being. Like, yes, we have universal energy within us, But I think you have to be, in this line of work, level-headed enough that people from all walks of life will want to come to you. Because if you open your practice up and you're saying there's something evil on you, and you're not of the light and things like that, people are going to be scared out of their minds. They're not going to want to book a reading with someone who is not empathizing with the human experience. I just think empathizing with the human experience is so important, because we are all human. Even if we are conduits, we are all human. And I think believing in concepts like, even, doomsdays and raptures, and we have to be very careful in this day and age that, spirituality isn't crossing over into some sort of, repent your sins type vibe. Like, I'm fully respectful of all religion, okay, but I also believe that, religion shouldn't be shameful. Like, we should not be shaming people for their beliefs, either or, you know what I mean? And so I think we have to be careful that, this is just in my opinion, okay, I think we just have to be careful that spirituality is not coming from a shaming place, it is coming from a loving place. I believe that my disability, genuinely in my heart of heart, was the path that I was meant to be on. Some people may disagree with that, but I think in my life it truly has impacted how I see things, but it has also made me able to put the human experience in my readings, because before I was spiritual, I was first and foremost a disabled human being, and still am, navigating the world, and I think that helps a lot. So I think people shouldn't be shamed for their perceived limitations, quote unquote, but they should be perceived for how they help others, for how they are able to channel spirit and give people a positive voice and a positive message and empowerment. So that's what I think. I think we need to realize that, all things can come together for good, right? All things can, be of help to someone. I think that some people genuinely have, respectfully to them, they have lost sight of what it means to be of service when it comes to spirituality. Like, I do honestly believe that, and I think people just want it for ego, they want it for narcissism. That's genuinely how I feel. Like, yes, there are a ton of beautiful readers that I know that are out there helping others, but I think, we need to learn that the ego, when the ego is making us above others, that's when we need to take a step back. Regardless of life experience, we should all be treated as equal and valid. Do you know what I mean? And that's just how I feel. And I'm just very strong on that. I believe that it doesn't help people to give, people are scared to even give tarot a go because they think, oh my God, is it going to tell me that I'll die? People believe that because of misconceptions, and maybe they've had a terrible reading. I knew of somebody who, and obviously I'm not going to name the full details, but was told that, they were going to have a terrible accident and lose a child and things. I thought, my goodness me, I just think that, like I said, we need to come at this from a human place. Like, it's like a doctor having no bedside manner and being like, okay, let me, I'm going to just saw your leg off. No empathy. And yes, I'm aware there are some non-empathetic doctors as well, but just humour me, okay? What I'm trying to say is, like, you need to come at it from a place of love, first and foremost. That is what I fully believe. And yes, everything is perspective. And I do believe if I dwell on these people, I'm going to see more of them. Like, I do believe that I'll see more of these types of people because they make me angry and such. But at the same time, in the external, you should not be disempowering people. So, yeah, this was a long rant. I chat a lot, but this is just to ease me back into content. So let me know if you liked my thoughts and opinions. Thank you, Autumn, again for recommending this video. I really do appreciate it. If you guys have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. Also, my shop is now open. If you like what I have to say about spirituality and you're curious about me as a reader and you would like to book with me, I'm going to put all my links below in a linktree link down below. You can have a look. My shop is open, so if you would like a reading, yeah, go check that out. Yeah, I don't really have any plans for any content moving forward as of yet. Probably in the next few weeks I'm going to be doing more readings, possibly more picker cards if you guys would want that. As I said, I've been a bit slightly unmotivated. I've been sick and life's gotten in the way. But if you guys would like for me to do a specific topic, just let me know. And for example, talking about these readings, I was probably a bit angry, talking about these types of readers, but there are many things that I'm very passionate about, and I believe that everything has nuance, everything has a middle ground, everything has some things are very objectively black and white in the world, but I believe that spirituality, manifestation, creating a reality, like it's all one and the same, and I believe that no one is above anyone when it comes to spirituality, and cults are a real thing and we just need to be careful. So, okay, sorry for the ramble. I love you guys and I will talk to you next time. Goodbye.